Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with you again in one more episode of our program Consciousness in Evolution. And today we have instructor Simoni Mussida, who is going to talk about helpers, an interassistantial perspective, right? And we also have a guest that is Anna Yogan, and Anna Yogan has presented us our last webinar was with her, and it was very interesting. And so she's going to interact with us today so that Simone can talk about helpers. That is a very interesting theme inside conscientiology. Okay. So, people, just to remember that this is a webinar from Reaprendência International, and Reaprendência is an institution from Conscientiology that deals with formation of teachers and also bioenergies, out-of-body experiences, paraphenomena, and many other interesting subjects related to the evolution of consciousness. So if you want to know more about us, subscribe in our channel and feel free to ask us any questions at any time during this webinar, okay? I'm going to introduce to you our instructor, Simoni Mussida. She is a psychologist graduated from California State University of Los Angeles and has a vast experience working with individuals in different types and sizes of organizations and businesses. She has been a volunteer of Conscientiology since 1994 and an instructor of Conscientiology for almost 2 decades, right? She's also a verbettographer of the Encyclopedia of Conscientiology and also a Penta practitioner since 2009. So, welcome, Simone. We are very happy to have you here together with us. Okay?
Thank you, Eliane, for a nice introduction. It's a real pleasure to be here. It is indeed. And Anna, thank you so much for being here as well. It's a great pleasure because to have this opportunity, right, to share and to talk about such an interesting subject, it's a treat, right? On a Sunday afternoon, having a cup of tea and talking about helpers. You kidding me? This is awesome. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Eliane.
Very good. You can start at any time. Okay. Why did you choose this subject,
Yeah.
Simone? Why to talk about extraphysical helpers?
Yes, that's a good question, Eliane. And helpers, well, I have through the years and learned more about them. It's almost like we build a relationship with them, right? They exist, and I will define for those who are watching. I will define, and we're going to go in depth about helpers. But I have been teaching and I have been a volunteer for many, many years. And it's one of the basic concepts in conscientiology. So one of the first classes that I took many, many years ago, it was about helpers, right? And so you learned about that. And I felt that talking about them at this time of my life was very relevant to the time, to the opportunity to do this presentation online in English. So it was just like the right thing. And I thought, helpers, yes, it's always good to talk about them, right?
Yes, because we really, throughout our lives, we always wanted to be helped. Wow, many of us. There are people who are more closer to that, to being helped, of being helped. But many of us, we are looking for these mentors, these extra physical consciousnesses that are all around us, helping us to do our tasks of our existential program, for example. And I will let you talk about it because I know you prepared some great information.
Yes. But Eliane, but you know, what you said, it's a very important thing because we tend to be more to ask for help more than because we think that we are in need. Most people, right? Most people, if we would do an generalization, which I don't like to do often, but if we're going to generalize, people ask more than usually they give. And the presentation today, the interassistantial relationship, it's all about that, right? Because first of all, when you give, you are the one receiving more. So if we are teaching this class and I'm presenting and I'm preparing, I'm the one. Every teacher, if it's a good teacher, they know that, right? That you teach, you get more than the students just by being there. And this relationship, this interrelationship, the interassistantial relationship or perspective, as I proposed, as proposed and that by the presentation, is proposing conscientiology, that you give, you receive. And so talking about this, it's a very important point that you made, that we are always asking for more, or we're always asking, and many times, and I will develop this throughout the presentation, but we are ready to give, right? To be a helper, for instance, right? Like as you mentioned. But let's move on then, shall we?
Please.
Okay. So first, let me just briefly mention here some of the objectives of the lecture, right? So we're going to present the concept which we have touched on. We will relate to other relevant topics, conscientiological topics, obviously. We will discuss about our relationship with helpers, okay? So these are the main topics that we're going to be working on. And so these are the objectives of the lecture. So then optimizations. Feel free to ask questions anytime. I might not stop immediately to answer you, but I will answer you. So feel free to ask anything you want, no worries, and we will try to answer all your questions. Neologisms, new words. Conscientiology, if you do not understand something, please ask. Okay, we're going to be throwing out words that you might not understand. As you know, conscientiology is a science that studies the conscious in an integral way. It's a new science. New science requires new words, right? So in psychology, we have many new words. Ego defense mechanism, right? We have to have new words. So neologisms, we use them a lot. We like them and we need them. So, but before I go further, we in conscientiology, we have the principle of disbelief. That is something very, very important for us. It was the first lecture that I took in 1994. It was this principle that caught my attention at first. So do not believe in anything, not even in what you hear in this webinar. Experiment. Have your own experience. I could not reinforce this more. When I first started, I liked it because I was like, wow, this is good. Nobody's trying to brainwash me. Nobody's trying to make me believe in anything I didn't want to believe. So I wanted to have experience and I wanted to know. So that was a really trigger for me. I was like, okay, this group is serious. I like it. I'm in. So I want you to think the same way. Have your own experiences. One experience, depending on the quality of the experience, is worth, 1,000 books, right? So it's important to have experiences. Anyway, so conscientiology, a new science, we have a new paradigm, the consciential paradigm. What does that mean? It means that we don't we don't leave conscientiology under the materialistic paradigm. We have the consciential paradigm. These are the premises, the seven basic premises. And we're not going to go over all of them because in 1 hour, in less than an hour, we do not have time. But we're going to touch on some of them, okay? And let me go back here. Let me just touch a little bit on the holosomatology, which is the study of the holosoma. So we will go in depth about this because this is relevant for us to talk about the helpers and the other extraphysical consciousness. So let me go on. Holosoma. What is a holosoma? Holosoma, it's a set of bodies. It's also soma from the Greek, means body. It's also what we call it vehicles of manifestation of the consciousness. Conscientiology, the new science that studies the consciousness in an integral way, right? Many facets, as you saw the basic ones there, the 7 basic principles. So when we study the holosoma, the set of vehicles that the consciousness manifests, I'm telling you, the consciousness is none of these bodies. So we use these vehicles to manifest. So we have the physical body, the soma. We have the energetic body or the energosoma, and the psychosoma, which the energosoma is between them. We call the energosoma, holochakra, the body of energies, and so on and so forth. You might see different synonyms throughout our literature and so on and so forth. The psychosoma is the body of emotion. Yeah? So the sentiment, the body of emotions, is the body that when we have an out-of-body experience, we have most of the time experiences with the psychosoma. And we have the mental body or the mental soma, the body of discernment, rationality, elevated sentiments, and so on and so forth. So this group of bodies, it's what we manifest with. If I am projected, I have my remains of my energetic body, my psychosoma, my mental soma. If I am here as I am right now, I have all the bodies aligned. Right? So that is how we manifest. It's relevant to our work, and it's relevant when you see, what the slide that comes next. Another concept, basic. So all of these are basic conscientiological concepts. Is the dysoma. What do I mean by dysoma? The activation of the soma. So the dysoma, as we call it, or it's also the biological death. So the first deactivation, these are relevant, and you'll see why. The first deactivation is when we die, we discard the physical body, and the regular death, as people call it, the biological death. We have the second dysoma, which is when we lose the energetic body or the energosoma. So when we deactivate the physical body, then comes the energetic body. What does that mean? That means that every time I am reborn, I gain a new energetic body. Okay, so this is relevant for us. It's relevant for us to understand that the energosoma is discarded as we go through the second dysoma. In some cases, the energosoma is not discarded, and we're going to see if it doesn't happen. It usually happens in few days. If it doesn't happen, it can cause lower levels of lucidity, stagnation into the mundane reality, and many other aspects that can affect the consciousness as a whole. So ideally, we prepare ourselves to go through the first dysoma, to go through the second dysoma, and then be extraphysically with the psychosoma and the mental soma. So the third dysoma is a different game because it's harder. It's going to take many lives for most of us to deactivate the psychosome. Is when we get to a level of maturity, of a level of evolution that we have worked on our psychosoma enough that we don't need to have intraphysical life anymore. And then these are the cases of the consciousness that we know they are more mature, more evolved, and they've gone through that through their many lives and achieved the level that now they don't have to have intraphysical lives anymore. So they discard the psychosoma and they exist in other dimensions with the mental soma, okay, only. So this is just a warm-up for us to understand the roles of the helpers and the other extraphysical consciousness, okay? So there are three types of extraphysical consciousness that we can say. Extraphysical helper, blind guide or amaurotic guide, and intruder. So we're going to elaborate on that, and I'm going to relate that to what we saw in regards to lucidity and the dysoma. So let me define extraphysical helper. Extraphysical helper consciousness, they're technical in assistance. They have a cosmophysiological perspective, high level of cosmoethics, ethics of the cosmos, beyond our ethics here, because they are extraphysical consciousness, right? So keep the extraphysical perspective so you understand that, you know, we are talking about not this dimension, we're talking about extraphysical dimension. And they assist individuals, people, and groups of consciousness. They are the benefactor, extraphysical benefactor, right? Is the guy that wants to help us. Is the guy who understands about evolution, is the understand about evolution, understands the difficulties that we have in intraphysical life, and they want to help. Most of it because of the cosmophysiological perspective. Okay, so let me move on here because I want to show you something here. So just going back here a little bit, they are not angels or guardian angels or spiritual guides. Sometimes guardian angels can be addressed, they're talking about, but it's beyond that because of their life. They are not attached to any dogmatic perspective. So they have a way broader perspective. I'm going to touch on that in a little bit. So here there is an example of a helper. He is in a better holosomatic, if I may, condition, a better emotional and mental condition. He is an extraphysical consciousness. He did go through the second dysoma, okay? And he is helping someone that we could call this a psychotic postmortem, which is a consciousness that passed away. They passed through the first dysoma. In this case here, he passed through the first dysoma, so he's extraphysical in a dimension that is not very, very bright or very optimizing, let's put this way, right? It's a dimension that is dark. The representation here is really good because it represents when we are under the influence of heavy energies and the thought process is not clear and we are not in a good shape. So you can see the post-psychotic postmortem and the helper is trying to help him gain lucidity, giving him some energies. Many people can be in this condition, right? After they pass through the first dysoma. Our work here, one of our work, of our ambition and our the premises that we study under Conscientiology is for us to increase our lucidity, so we don't have to go through periods of lower lucidity or emotional conflicts that we would end up in a dimension that it's like that. Okay, so we want to do everything we can so when we go through the first dysoma, that we go through the second dysoma, and we, if possible, that we become a helper, right? We are lucid enough to be able to take care of ourselves and others. So that's the idea. So let me talk a little bit more about the helper. So different types and levels. Yes, different levels, because everything in life, right? Some people are a little bit better, some people a little bit behind us. So they are technician of lucid projection. So one type, they are technician in out-of-body experience. Yes, they might help you have out-of-body experience. If they see that you are ready, you have interest, and you are having a projection. I had at the beginning of my studies in conscientiology and out-of-the-body experience, I had several experiences that I was being helped. And today, a few days ago, I was putting together an experience that I had 20 years ago or more with something else that happened. So those kind of things, they can happen and they do help. But there are other types of helpers: former relative, former friend, former colleague, or even an apparent stranger. Let's say that you see a person, a helper, and you don't identify that that consciousness, right? Extraphysical, you don't know. You think it's a stranger, but in reality, maybe you met that person many lives ago, and now the consciousness is helping you. Don't take this lightly. It can be a former relative. It doesn't mean that every relative that I have in this life will become a helper tomorrow. Okay? Let's not banalize the concept. It can be. We would have to analyze and see each case can be one case. There's a lot to this here. Helpers can also change their form to be a little bit more welcoming, so they can transform the psychosoma into a form of a relative. But relatives can be helpers, but we would need to evaluate and see each case by case. But towards the end of the lecture, I hope you will be able to see that as we finish here with the idea and the concept of help. Okay, the intruder, they do the intrusion, meaning the slide that you saw a helper helping the intruder there, like someone who is not in a good shape. We're going to talk about intruder in a little bit. So they can be specialized in doing the intrusion. They can be specialized in OBE, lucid projections. They can be extraphysical police. So they're specialized on that. And they can also be specialized or technical in the Soma, meaning they help us through the first Soma. This is a fact. If you have ever experienced, I'm old enough that I have had friends who passed away. And I experienced that firsthand of, seeing the help, the process of someone, in a matter of 5 minutes about to really discard the physical body, right? That moment there. So, and they also help us with the second Soma. So the slide that we saw before, it can be a demonstration of also them helping someone go through the second Soma, which is for them to gain more lucidity.
Okay, Simoni, can I ask you something?
Yes.
We, as lucid projectors, we can help the helpers to go into this more dense extraphysical environments, such as the one that it was in the picture that we call barotrosphere. Okay,
Yes.
and as we have more dense energy, we can go there together with the helper and try to donate our energies. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes.
If you have any experience regarding that situation?
Yes, good question, Eliane. Yes, that can definitely be done if you are a lucid projector and you have the willingness and the skill to be able to go in and get out and be. The most important thing is the lucidity and the energy, the desire to help. And the lucidity what does lucidity does to us? It minimizes the fear. It minimizes, you are there as in a partnership with a helper. So you could go to a place like that you see someone under, with a lack of lucidity, and the helpers, what they do, they use our energies. They use our energies because it's denser, because the helper did go through the second soma. I'm projected, or we projected, we have the negosoma, we attached it to the soma. So we have a different type of energy when we are projected. We have denser type of energy. So they use our energy to help someone who is thinking that they're still alive, who is craving mundane things, right? So all the mundane things that we possibly could be food, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, which is a type of legal drug, né? Or alcohol, which is a legal drug, sex, anything, money, power, anything that a person might be that it's very related to this mundane reality, it lowers our lucidity, and we don't, because of the lack of that stagnation into that world, we don't go through the second soma, and we need a different type of energies to go there and help. And in times of war, I had an experience recently because of the war in Ukraine, of something of this nature, of helping people in that process of going through the second soma. Not too far off, not too long ago, I had this type of experience. So absolutely, it's a very important, right? Sometimes you help, you don't even know, and sometimes you know you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And something that is interesting to mention is that sometimes we are there, we feel that there is someone helping us to do the task, to do this rescue, to assist these consciousnesses that have passed. However, we don't see because the helper is intangible. We usually don't see him, but we know that he's there because there is an interassistantial work going on.
Yeah, that's a very good. They are so skilled, right? A helper. They are so skilled. They know exactly what to do to for the work to be done. Because if they show up for to us, we might be a little bit dazzled, and we might be a little bit like, So they might say, well, it's not important who I am. It's not really important. The importance is that the work gets done. That's their mentality, and I think it's right. That's the
And
idea.
it brings me
So
to another point that I think interesting too. Sometimes we feel like we are not able to do some tasks, and there are some specific kind of helpers that are going to make us a little more specialized in a set of tasks. Isn't that right?
yes,
Like the
they
functional helpers.
yes, like the functional. You mean that the yes in a
Yes,
specific
they help
task.
us with a specific function.
Yes, absolutely. You want to give an example, Anna? But I
Uh,
mean, we have several. Penta is one, right?
mhm.
Like
Even with the somatology, it's another thing that sometimes
yes,
we are going to become functional helpers as well. And they use
yes.
our energies to help with the soma of other consciousness.
Yes. And Anna, one thing that it makes me think about that is that, some people, they love working with people who are going to die. They have no problem with that. They are very easy at it. They nurses and people at hospice and stuff like that. And some people, and we might know them, they're okay with it. They're okay. They know, okay, yeah, it's a natural process of life, right? It's the only thing we can be sure of. We'll deactivate our soma somehow, someday. So, but some people are more relaxed about it, and others are not. And it's interesting to see if this kind of people, they would have a functional helper who is specialized in the soma working with them. For me, this is logical, right? It's a work that needs to be done. We have people who wants to do the work, who can do the work well. So if I'm managing that, I want that person in my team.
Mhm.
Right? So this lucidity that they have, the basic attributes here, the lucidity, the broader perspective that they have, it's what dictates who they're gonna pick. But we have three of us here, for instance, and then one is more inclined to one. Anna, you study about that, right? That's right. You gave it yes. You study about that. So imagine someone who it's studies about that, and if you have a helper, might just because they know the broader perspective, they pick the right person to do the right task. So cosmoethics, it comes here also into the scope because it's choosing the best course of action to help more people. That's what I was mentioning before. Not necessarily pleasing all involved. Do not hurt someone to help another. Does not give perks or have favorites. Respect our free will. We're going to talk about this when we talk about assistance. They are technician in assistance, right? So their cosmoethics does not allow them to hurt me to please Anna, right? It's against assistance, so they won't do that because they understand evolution, they understand assistance, and they are patient. They have a lot of patience. I now I understand them more than I understood before. The level of patience that they have with us because they know it's hard. It's a hard task to be here in this intraphysical dimension. They've been here, been there, done that, right? So they know it's a challenge, and they have a lot of patience. And I heard that the more evolved helpers, they give classes about patience to other helpers. I read that in one of our books. So I'm going to move on because I have a feeling we have still a lot to cover. Is this okay here?
Yeah, it's okay. I have a question here. I'm gonna ask it now. Then you move a little bit. Then you go further.
Okay.
It's from Julio Hoyer.
Okay.
Okay. Julio is mentioning that very interesting subject. Can you talk about how to get the assistance of the extraphysical helpers?
Yeah. I will talk about that in a little bit. Is that okay, Julio? Ask him because I'll talk. I have a slide about of all about that
How
in a little bit.
to get in contact with them?
Yes, and to be
It would
helped.
be great if we had an email or a WhatsApp from the helper, but it's not like
Hey, not yet. With the technology and the advance in technology, I don't know. We might one day. But that's more to
that's
that than,
good.
than that, right?
Okay,
But Julio, I want him to keep in mind this slide because all of this here has a lot to do with this how to get assistance from them, especially the type of assistance that we do. Okay, helper, high lucidity, blind guide, low lucidity, narrow vision. They are immature, inexperienced, as opposed to a helper. They try to help other consciousness by acting in an anti-cosmoethical way, following the egoistic interests of the moment. So the blind guide is that kind of person that deep inside somewhere there, they want to help, but the type of assistance that they give, it's not cosmoethical. So they might hurt me to help Jose, or they might, or John. They might hurt John to help me just because they like me. This can be many type of. I might create a relationship with a blind guide, and if I am not very straight in my behavior, if I'm not mature enough to understand and to be smart enough to think, I want to, like Julio asked, I want to connect with a helper. I don't want to connect with a blind guide. So if I am mature enough to pay the price to be cosmoethical, I might be inclined and I might be having connection with the blind guide instead of having connection with the helper. So the narrow vision, what I want to mention about this is that if I think only about my family, for instance, right, and I want to protect them so much that I might do something immature towards another person. So the cosmovisiological aspect and the cosmoethical way of doing assistance, the blind guide are missing. Okay, so that's the main characteristic. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because we have a class and we're going to talk about that. We have like 2 hours to talk about all of this. So today here in this live, we're going to focus on understanding helpers. And that's why I'm not going to spend too much time here, but you have an idea. And then we have another type of extra-physical consciousness, intruder. The intruder, like the picture showed to you, it's an ill consciousness. The person has a disease, okay? It's a holosomatic disease, and they have negative actions directly or indirectly towards conscious or unconsciously towards another person. They are very persistent, so they keep going. They want to hurt, they want to disturb, they want to hurt, they want to influence you in a malevolently way to waves of those things, thoughts, sentiments, and energies is another basic subject in conscientiology. So those things, thoughts, sentiments, and energies, they work together. That's how consciousness manifests itself. So it's pretty much, when you have that friend that it looks like a little devil that he's drinking and he wants you to drink, and you drink half glass of wine and you're fine. No, drink more, drink more, drink more. And it's not that the person, it's maybe it's an unconscious thing, right? But it's influencing you. This is a simple example, okay? Because I don't want to go dive too much into it because, again, we don't have time to go. But it's important that you understand what a helper is not, okay? So that's very important that you understand. So if someone is bothering you, wants to exterminate you, wants to put you down or criticize you in an anti-cosmoethical way, or wants to provoke or influence you in any negative way or disturb you in any kind of way, it's an intruder. Unfortunately, the person, it's ill. It's not healthy consciousness, extra-physical consciousness, okay? It's important that we know that those three types exist, and you don't find many lines of thoughts or study talking about blind guides and intruders, okay? So it's important that we know that this is something that we in conscientiology, we talk a lot about it. We think it's super relevant, especially if you want to evolve, if you want to become a helper one day, and if you want to have out-of-body experience and have more lucidity out there, you need to know that this is the reality. Perceptions. This slide I left like that because it's actually interesting. I tried everything and I couldn't fix it. But I want to talk to you some types of parapsychic signals that can be positive or negative, but it might mean something for you to perceive any type of extra-physical consciousness. So usually a helper who gets closer to you, it enhances your vibration, it enhances your lucidity. You can see them. You might feel energetic showers. You might feel like a little tapping on your head, or a smell, or you can see them through clairvoyance, or you can see them, you can hear them through clairaudience. But you can hear also little ringing in your ear, something more, a discomfort, a pressure in some part of your body, something like the intruder would do, forcing themselves over you. Irritability, not helper, intruder. Foggy thoughts, not helper, intruder. Changing in your thoughts, elevated sentiments, more lucidity, helper. Okay, so I know I'm just rushing through it, but you got the idea. We're gonna talk about this. We have a book about this. We have classes that we talk only about this, but you got the idea, I hope. So here comes the question that Julio was asking. Extraphysical, what is the best way to connect with helpers? Is by doing assistance, is by helping others. Remember, I said they are special yes. They are specialized in assistance because they are also specializing in evolution. Okay, so they know it comes hand in hand. You have to help. You have to give good quality of assistance for you to be able to evolve and help everyone that you can evolve. So let me tell you the types of assistance that we talk about. Two types: consolation task and clarification task. Consolation task is more psychosomatic, drama, right? More emotional. And clarification task is more mental somatic. It's something that uses more rationale. And let me describe here. So that is a Chinese proverb that says, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. So this is a very good way to exemplify the clarification task and the consolation task. Okay, so the clarification task, you teach the man to fish. The consolation task, you give the man the fish already done. So we are focusing here on the long-term benefit of the tasks, of the assistential tasks. So consolation task, it's less advanced, it's easier performed, it's sugar coating, as we say. So the lollipop, colorful, pretty, right? Like very infantile, that, a kid would grab and run with it happy, but then, he comes back and he's still hungry because that didn't feed him. So the consolation, it doesn't promote any deeper change or recycling or interconsciential recycling, as we call it in conscientiology. It maintains the status quo, meaning I will give you a hug and say, oh, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. I'll pray for you. Yeah, it's all their fault. They're horrible. You're this sweet kid. Nothing's going to harm you. You're fine. So you're consoling someone, right? It's an immediate relief. It's comforting. It's easy to perform, as I mentioned, because you don't have to do much. You just say some nice words and the person is happy, and that's it. And it creates codependency because, like the example of the fish, if I feed you a meal today, but I don't do anything to help you be independent, you're going to need to find someone else, or you're going to come back to me to get another meal. So we consider religion a type of consolation task. In conscientiology, we consider that. So it's that quick fix also, you sugarcoat, oh yeah, no, he'll be fine. And everything goes on, right? Nothing changes, you don't change, the situation doesn't change, and you're just the same, but you're gonna come back because you are dependent on me. But hey, it's easier on me. I don't need to go by, teach you how to fish, spend a longer period of time trying to teach you to do something new, right? So for me, it's much easier. I give you a lollipop, a colorful one, and go away. Come back tomorrow because I'll give you another one, right? So that's not what helpers do. If you are doing that, or if you know someone who is doing that, it's not a helper. This has to be very clear to you for you to be able to connect with a helper. You need to understand that. The clarification task, on the other hand, it's what helpers do. It's what we as conscientiologists, we try to do. So it's more advanced. It's harder to perform because you teach someone how to change, how to do something different, how to make deeper recyclings. Because of that, it's harder because sometimes it seems a little bit cold, rough at times, but you don't mind that because you know the reason you are doing that. So you go with that because it promotes long-lasting benefits, right? And you are creating self-sufficient people. You want people that can think by themselves. I had a student one day, I'll never forget that. And she told me one day, she said, you help me learn how to think. I was like, wow, I'm very glad I did that. So we want people to be self-sufficient. We don't need people to be coming back. In conscientiology, that's why we give classes. We teach people all kinds of ways for the person to be self-sufficient, to think independently, to be able to go extraphysically, have our out-of-the-body experience, and hopefully become a helper, be able to help other people go through the same process that we have gone through, right? Ideally, and then we have more moral authority also to teach others, right? Because hey, I've been there, I know how is it done, I learned, and it's like if I do consolation task, it's very hard for you to talk about clarification task. So what I found is that the best way for us to connect with the helper, first of all, is to do clarification task, because that's what they do, right? They are fast, although they are patient. They come, they help, and go. They don't keep that relationship that they want to be seen, they want to be worshipped. There's none of that, right? They want to create people that are at the same level. So if the best way to connect with a helper, I say, is to behave like one and let them come to you. So if I behave like a helper, I will not do consolation task. You will, no matter what, you try. In some occasions, I'll be a little bit flexible here. Sometimes, perhaps as an exceptional case, a super exceptional case, but your standard conduct, it's a clarification task because you don't want to be a blind guide. You want to be a helper. To be a helper, you have to behave like one. You have to act like one. You have to at least to try, right? So be serious about evolution because they are, and do your homework. So we have to do our homework. There's no other way. At least I don't know any other way. So we have to raise our cosmoethic standards, help others for real with clarity task, right? Because even though it can be a little bit painful at times, it can, be tough, right? Because people sometimes they don't like you, perhaps because you're too frank, you're too sincere, but that's okay because you don't care, right? You're not trying to please people. You're trying to be effective, okay? And increase your lucidity. So I think these are the best ways that I found that I think we do in conscientiology to be able to contact them. And more recently, I think this is very important, that the idea that we behave, we act like one, and then they will come because they say, hey, it's that person, like Eliane said before with the out of body experience. Once we have that type of connection with them, and they see that we are doing the same similar type of work, uh, they will come. We don't need to be begging, asking, spending time. Please help me. Please help me. It's childish. We want to be, raise the bar, right? I would say let's raise the bar because we can do that. Okay. So another thing that is important here is that I find relevant is that the majority of people do not have helpers. Look around in this planet only. Look around. How many people are doing clarification tasks that you know of? So that already answers your question. So the majority of people do not have helpers. And unfortunately, it's because of underperformance. We can do better, but we are not doing it. Right?
We can say, Simoni, that the great majority of people have either the blind guides,
Yes.
that are the amarotic guides that have a very narrow vision about evolution,
Yeah.
or even they have the intruders
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Or
are
both.
their guides. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
So
It's
we have
very
to. That's why we have to evolve. It's another good reason.
another good reason. You're right, Eliane. And I see this everywhere. We have to be realistic, right? And I see, and I know you are mentioning this because you see it too. And it is because of that. Even though sometimes I see a family member, great potential, super smart, all the capabilities that you can think of, but no, he can't do it because of many. I'm not going to even discuss the psychological aspects of this specific case, but because we don't have the time. But it's super underperformance on the in underperformance lifestyle, and hence it has intruders. I know, and it has blind guys as well. It's
Simone,
the reality of most of people, unfortunately.
um,
Hey,
why should why are the people so much in underperformance? Do you think it's because people don't like to get out of the comfort zone?
you so perfect question, because look at this here. Look at this slide. It's perfect timing.
First,
Um,
perfect timing. Great.
perfect timing again. Is because of comfort zone. Yeah, we don't want to pay the price. It's easier for me. Give me the easy thing and I go on. And why bother? How many people we hear, family members, friends, and colleagues, why bother? Right? So, if for us to have helpers and this, it's important that we do the work, right? That they do, that we do, that we get out of our comfort zone. But it's in a way it's a little bit complex because the person who doesn't have the information, okay. If you have the information, you have parapsychism, you have out of body experience, but still you don't do it. Sometimes it's the evolutionary level, right? We don't have time to go over all of it here, but sometimes it's the evolutionary level of the person, then we know we would have to respect that. So, but for us to have helpers, it's important that also that we do something that is a little. I heard from another live, a friend mentioned that he said, well, for you to have a helper, you need to do something that your legs will shake, meaning get out of your comfort zone, meaning you do something that if you have a medium low evolutionary level, like, I would say, let's say that we have a medium evolutionary level, or low to medium, and then we do something that is a little bit harder.
For
And
us, but in terms of assistance,
in
doing
terms
assistance.
of assistance, doing assistance, we do something a little bit harder, and we get out of our comfort zone, you know? So that is a way to do. Let me see the other slide that I have here. So in this sense, that's pretty much, how to keep them, in our lives, and to get out of our underperformance. And then food for thought here: are my helpers idle? Are they sitting around and help, and they come help a little bit, but most of the time they don't have space to help, to approach us? Am I creating an environment, physically, energetically, emotionally, and all, for them to approach me? And through my actions, through my assistential tasks, and so on, through my thoughts, my sentiments, and my energies, right? My thoughts, things. So it's not hard math. It's a very simple math, right? If we do the homework, that's pretty much it, right? How to connect to them and to keep them around. There's no other way. Otherwise, what we have, we might think is a helper, but it's not. You might feel presence, but the presence, it's of a blind guide and intruders. It's not a helper.
Very good,
Yeah.
Simoni.
Yes.
We are very near the end of our lecture.
Yes.
And I want also to invite to communicate that our next lecture will be in 15 days. That is on the 20th of June. And we will have a very interesting subject, very much related to this one, that is parapsychic phenomena related to multidimensional communication. So we are going to go deeper into the subjects of how to talk with the extra physicality, with the helpers, even with the intruders, with the blind guides,
Yep.
and how do they communicate with us. So what are the paraphenomena we know today that if we understand them, these concepts of this paraphenomena, we can have a better performance with this communication. So you were all invited. And another thing that I want to mention here in the end of your lecture, I will give you a minute to make your closing. But before you close, I want to invite people to participate in our next course, Fundamentals of Consciousness in Evolution. That will happen, that will start in September the 3rd, okay, this year. So in 3 months, we will be starting these new fundamentals. And it was going to be especially directed to Australia time zone and USA time zone. Because in Brazil, it will be from 9 on Fridays and Saturdays, is starting 9 p.m. from 9 to 11:30 p.m. So for us in Brazil, it's going to be a little bit late, so that in Australia, it's going to be perfect for them to watch us, to participate on Saturdays and Sundays mornings, okay? So you will get to know more about that, but I'm already inviting our viewers to participate in this course, okay?
Perfect.
And I want to thank you very much for your participation, Simoni, and also Ana Yogan. Simoni, you want to say something to close this great lecture?
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted, reinforce the food for thought here, for us to think about our helpers, to give more of, I would say, to create a stronger relationship with them, not by asking, but actually with our actions and doing more so we can have more of them, because some of them are idle, waiting, right? And although they're patient, I mean, right? We don't want to look around and see them there waiting to work with us, right? So it's a really important. I feel like that it's the more lucid and more experience we have, we value them more, and we respect them more. That time, that investment in us, and it's just like a but.
Do the work, right?
Don't believe in anything, have your own experiences, and think, see if that makes sense, right? And let's that's what I'm trying to do, just work hard as I can to have more of my helpers.
Very good. Good exemplarism. Anna, would you like to say something?
Anna,
Yes,
thank you so much.
I'd like to remember a part of that movie, Field of Dreams. And
Yes.
they say, like, if you build, they will come. So
If
let's build it.
you Yes, that's right. We are doing it. We are doing
Yeah.
it. If you build it,
If
they will
you
come.
did, they will come. Yeah, with Kevin Costner, and old
Yes.
movie, but it's very good. Full of messages and connection with the helpers. Very good.
Guys, it was really, really good. Eliane, very good. Thank you so much for the invitation. I will be around. So we will be, seeing each other again. And, I'll be here supporting the next one on psychic phenomena.
Yes,
Love
that's
it.
great. Very good. I'm very happy to have you as my partner, colleagues for presenting the lives. We will see
Yes.
each other more times,
They
okay?
will be seeing all three of us a lot. And Julio and everybody else, thank you so much for the questions and for being here. Bye bye.
Very good. So, people, bye bye. Happy evolutionary journey for everyone. Bye bye.
Yes.